Okay, good evening. Hope you're all doing well. Today, Baruch Hashem, we're starting a new parak. Sorry about my shiur yesterday. I thought it was going to be a clear one, but alas, the recording didn't come out good, so my apologies. So the new parak of Hasocher es Hapoel. What we're going to be discussing today in great part is I know that Yain Nesech, we all know that Yain Nesech has an Isser Hana, but what happens if I sell it anyways? Is the money that I made from the Yain Nesech also Aser Be'ana? Namely, what is the scope of the Isser Hana of Yain Nesech, which is really going to be a big part of this first mission. So somebody had to fill in, say,
Me with the jokes now.
yeah. So the new parak opens on the top of Samach Beis and Aleph and says as follows: Hasocher es hapoel la'asos imo b'yayin nesech. If I hire an employee, a yid, and I'm hiring him specifically to work with me in my yayin nesech factory, scharo aser. You're being hired as a yayin nesech consultant, schlepper, whatever the job is. You're being hired for that purpose. Then your schar is aser. So we're going to work on it in the Gemara why it is that it would be aser. We know that it's aser. Maybe it's because of Isser Hana. Well, we're going to go through all the svaras. We'll see. However, let's say your employment, your contract was a little different. Schar lasos imo malacha acheres. I didn't hire you to be my yid who helps me with yain nesech. I hired you to be my mover in general. So you got the Karesh moving company, and normally you do residential. But one day I tell you, I'm a W-2 employee. I work for you. But this day you asked me to do something that I really shouldn't be involved in. And I do it. The halacha is scharo mutter. So we make this fine distinction that if my whole atzmius of my employment, my job title, my whole world is to work on, okay, pasha, that my schar is going to be so we still don't know what the rationale is yet. We'll get there, but if it's not my full-time job, I do work for you, but then you ask me to do this one-off job on moving a barrel of yain nesech, so that schar is mutter. Hasocher es ha-chamor. If somebody rents out a donkey, l'havi aleha yain nesech, I'm renting your donkey for the purpose of yain nesech, scharo aser. That's not allowed. I shouldn't say that's not allowed. The schar is aser. The schar you cannot have. But sachra leishev aleha, if the person hired my donkey to sit on it, even if one were to put something of yain nesech on top of the animal, so then the halacha is schara mutter. So we can already see these two cases are somewhat similar. When your work with the goy is directly with yain nesech, then the schar is going to be aser. When it's indirect, it's going to be mutter. Now we're going to discuss from here, about another 10 lines or so, is to try and understand my time of scharo aser. Why is it that in our Mishnah, if my employment was to be the yain nesech mover guy, why is my schar aser? Ilei mahol v'yain nesech aser bana scharo nami aser. If you want to say that because we know that yain nesech itself is aser bana, so too the schar you make from yain nesech is also aser bana. Do we accept that jump and say that the scope of yain nesech is broader than just the wine? And really, it's employment for the wine also, which is really a different concentric ring, right? The core, the Eker Isser Hana, is that the Yain Nesach is Aser B'Hana, which means I can't sell it. The second ring is, if I do sell it, can I use that money? Do we expand the scope of Isser Hana? So the Gemara says that can't be. Even if you wanted to say that, we can't, because Hare Orla Uvikiloi HaKerem Desurim B'Hana. We know that Orla, fruits in the first 3 years, Kiloi HaKerem, these are things that were vineyard and wheat, for example, they're planted, all of them are all intertwined. Those are Aser B'Hana, and yet, what do we see? V'tznan. We saw this Mishnah numerous times over the last many years. Machran, if you sold them, the Kiddush B'dmen Mekudeshes, that if you sell Orla or Kiloi HaKerem, and with those monies you propose, you get married, you're Mekudash. So what does that show you? That the Isser Hana is limited to the item itself. The finances in that outer concentric ring may not be mutter, but it's also not Asr B'Hana. So you can't now say by us, when it comes to Yain Nesech, that the schar is going to be Asr because of Hana. So now we need to try a second answer, because it's definitely not an Isser Hana. If I sell the Yain Nesech, or if I'm an employee of the Yain Nesech company, and I take my salary, that's definitely not Aser Bana, because we know by Orlan Kilei Kerem that that's not Aser Bana, because If I were to say to him, the W-2 payment zoo of yain, that works. So that it's not an issue of yain of Isser Hana. Ella says the Gemara a little bit more than a third of the way down. Ella hol v'tofes is dam of kavodas kochavim. Maybe we should say that it has the same exact din. Instead of saying that the Isser Hana moves from the item to other things, now we're saying something different. That maybe the Avodah Zara status travels, or the Yain Nesech travels from the original item to the money. So now it's not Isser Hana, it's Yain Nesech status. It's a different category, different sug. It's not about the money. It's that it's like a truma, a tmura, excuse me. It's like it used to be over here, now it's over there. We move the status of Yain Nesach to the money. That can't be either, says the Gemara. Shvis, the Tofes says we know by Shvis we have an idea like this. It's not. And when we come to Shvis, we have the following distinction. This is a Mishnah in Maseches Shvis. Ha'omer lepoel, I say to my worker, Helach dinar zu, lekot libo, yerek hayom. Here is a coin. Take this coin, keyword here is bo. Lekot libo, with this coin, I want you to buy me yerek hayom. Then, scharo aser. But lekot li yerek hayom without the word bo, just buy it for me. Don't use this coin. Don't use any specific coin. Just get it done. Then scharo mutter. So what we see from here is that it can't be that there's a full transference of shvius over to the coins, because if it was inherent in the coin, then it would still be completely usher, which it's not. And therefore, we also can't have it be the case. We said it can't be that the Isser in our Mishnah, that the status of the Schara Asr is because of Hana, because we know by Orla and Kiloya Kerem that doesn't work. It also can't be that it's Tofes Estameh, that the din of Yain Nesech transfers over to my salary. Why not? Because we see by Shvis that that's not true. So we still don't know. We know in our bones it's not right. We know in our bones it's not right to work for the Yain Nesech company. We know that. And Schara Asr, it feels right to me. But why? So it's not Isser Hana, and it's not Tofes, the same shame. So what's the third possibility?
That it's Aser V'Hana.
Well, possible answer number one is that just like Yain Nesech is Aser V'Hana, that I'm not allowed to sell it and make money, so too, if I work for the company, I'm not selling the Yain Nesech, I'm just moving it from here to there. But my salary would then be Aser V'Hana. We reject that because by both Orla and Kiloi HaKerem.
Right, I'm saying.
Yeah.
What does that mean? If you use the money, it's Aser V'Hana. You're doing an Avera. So then you're doing another Avera. Okay. If you're going to be using the money, you're probably not the kind of person that cares about using the money anyway, right?
We're trying to figure out the why behind the what. We don't understand why the Mishnah said that if I work for the Yain Nesech company and my job is to move the barrels, check on the barrels, whatever they are.
Right.
So when my paycheck comes in every 2 weeks, that money's usher to use. Why? So if you want to say it's because of Isra, no, you can't, because Orla and Kilei Kerem ruined that. So what's your question? I didn't take any money. I mean, I took money, but I didn't sell the Yain Nesech. That's direct Isser Hana, which is already Usser for other reasons.
I mean, the money might be Usser, right? Whether it be
the salary money.
The salary money.
Yeah.
Right. If you're someone that's selling Yain Nesech.
Not selling, working for the company.
Sorry, working for the company to that, which is Usser.
Right.
And then getting money, which is Usser, right? Why would you care? You'll just use the money anyway.
Could be, but we have to know what the Isser is. Could be.
But I don't know. It could be that I'm not being clear. But
I don't hear your question. So it's been a long day. I don't know. I don't know. Try again one more time. I didn't hear it. Just try one more time. So you're saying the guys are ready. You're saying he's not so from as it is. Who cares if Schara Asr?
No, he won't care. You're saying
he won't care.
He's saying you're telling
you should not take that job.
You shouldn't take the job.
Now that you took the job, you're not allowed to use your salary.
Oh, all right. Thanks, Rabbi.
It's still, but you got to know where the lines are.
100%.
Yeah.
But is there any
because if the Isser transfers, you're a good guy. He gives you a birthday present. You got to throw in the garbage.
That's answer number 2. Answer number 2 is that it's Tofes. But answer number 1, I think what you're asking is if he already doesn't care about halacha, telling him that Schara Asr won't matter.
Right.
I hear that. But
and if you're somebody that does, then he wouldn't have gotten the job in the first place, right?
There's a concept of shiur as well.
Yeah, could have had Hiruri Tshuva, but I don't even think It seems to me that we're just trying to figure out where the threshold is. We're just trying to find the line. That's what it seems.
Yeah.
Of course, you shouldn't take the job. I think I wouldn't take the job. I don't know. Depends how desperate you are. I don't know. Is it usher to take that job? Is it usher to move a barrel of wine?
Presumably,
What's the answer?
according to
What are you doing to the Yain Nesach? You're a Jew.
You're gaining, is it also to move it for free? Probably not, it's the scar that's the problem, right? It's also bahana.
It's usher bana, but you're
if you're moving it for enough.
no, but you're not. The movement, the maisa is not a maisa for hana. It's not like selling Yain Nesach where you profit money. It's one step removed, which is I'm doing something that I don't care to do necessarily. It's like you want me to move it to another room? Okay, I'll move it to another room. You're a schlepper. You're a mover. Then the paycheck comes in. I'm like, okay, Baruch Hashem. Now I have a little more. Now I have a little bit of cash to spend. So that is not the same as Isser Hana. Those are different things. Isser Hana is okay, you made my wine into Yain Nesach, and now I'm going to sell it to a guy. That's an Isser Hana. That's straight up Asr. But this is one step removed, and the Gemara is saying that it's not allowed. Why is it not allowed? Is it Asr because of Hana? It's not because of Isser Hana. It's too far removed. Or I should say, because of Orlim Kilei Kerem. Or do you want to say that it's Tofes Estameh, that the status of the Yain Nesach transfers? No, doesn't transfer, because we see by Shvius that there are times that it's mutter. So I'm not totally sure. I think I understand your question, and if so, I would have said maybe something like David was saying, that you're just asking tshuva. You can just enough kamina if he goes to Aish, it's okay, like that.
It's cash on myself.
Okay, yeah. All right, well, we can talk more about it more. Don't retract. Just keep asking. I just don't know the answer, or I don't understand the question. Okay, so now let's look at answer number 3. 2 lines before the Y lines. Amar Rabbi Abba, Rabbi Yochanan, you're right. It's not Isser Hana, and it's also not because it's Tofes Estameh. Kanasu shekansu chachamim. You're a fool. You should not be having this job. And there are 2 cases where we have this knas. B'chamarin, working with donkey drivers, u'v'yayin nesach. Yayin nesach hada'amran, that's our Mishnah. We're penalizing you for taking the job. You're not allowed to use the money that you get into your bank account. You're done. Now, this is really not related to us, except that it's all part of the same din that Rabbi Abba taught in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. We learned our Mishnah. Now let's talk about Chamar and Mahi. What's the case of the donkeys? Titanya. Chamar shayu osin mulacha b'perish shvius, scharon shvius. There are donkey drivers who were doing work with the fruits during a shvius year. They would get paid shvius. So that's difficult because you're not allowed to get paid shvius. It says the Gemara, "My schar on shvius." What does it mean that they got paid this way? Ilema di havina lahu schar mi peros shvius, that you're paying them their wages from the fruits of shvius. That's not allowed. Nimtza ze porei chova mi peros shvius v'ataram amra leachla v'lo l'schara. That is what the pasuk says in Vayikra. The pasuk says, "Vayisa Shabbos ha'arz lachem leochla." So it says the Gemara that it's meant to be consumed v'lo l'schara. Ve'ela, if you want to say the kiddush schar and the kiddush shvius, if you want to say that the reason why this money is going to be problematic is because it has the sanctity of shvius, umikadosh, that's not true. V'hatznan should be the right kirsa. Haomer lapol, like we just saw a minute ago. We know that it's not inherently. We just learned about shvius 2 minutes ago when we talked about the brisa. That the brisa said, Haomer lapol, I say to my worker, Helach dino zeh ulakotli bo yerek ulakotli yerek hayom. So then the halacha is that scharo mutter, but lekotli yerek bo hayom scharo aser. So we see that there are times that the shvius is not categorically aser. So therefore, you can't say that the money is going to be completely aser. So what is going on over here with the chamar? So Amar Abaye, like the first answer, which said that we pay him from the shvius el olam. Amar Abaye leolam yahavina leschar mi peros shvius udekakash eloch leachla velo leschora the yavanele b'tzad heter. Yes, he's allowed to eat from the fruit, but it has to be done b'tzad heter. It has to be done in a unique way. You can't pay him a regular salary. That's the knas. What is the loophole with how we would pay this person? You don't give it to him as a salary. You give it to him as stama matana. That's the tzad heter. Sounds like a big loophole. So now let's look at the Mishnah. Yeah. Salama says the Gemara, Kiditznan. Where do we see this? Lo yomar adam lechavero. Turning to the top of Samach Beis and Beis. You can't say to your friend, "Hello li peros halal li Yerushalayim lechalek." I want you to bring up my fruits for my Sheni to Yerushalayim, and of them I'll pay you. So let's say I'm going to bring up 10 apples. You get a couple of them. Okay. Aval What are you allowed to do? Omer lo ha'aleim la'ochlam l'ishtosim Yerushalayim v'noslam l'zeh l'zeh matana shel chinam. No problem. I'll give you a matnas chinam. It's not quid pro quo. I'm just giving you a gift. Happens to be from this pocket, but so the Gemara has no problem with this, which is considered to be a significant loophole. What we don't allow is to say straight up, it has to be done. I don't want to say b'ha'arama, but that's what it is. That's what it sounds like to my head. That sounds like, but that's clearly we have precedents for that in the world of Ma'aser Sheni. The Rava Amar, no. Actually, the second answer is correct. The second answer that we saw about what was our question about the chamorin, about paying the donkey drivers. Rava says, "La'olam de kiddush b'kedusha shvis." Really, there is kedusha, and that's a big problem. That's why we can't actually pay the guy straight away from shvis. Udika kasheloch poel. What about the brisa from shvis? The brisa from shvis told us that if I tell the worker to go pay for it without specifying which coin, then it's mutter. Says the Gemara, Poel de lo nafish agre lo kansuhu rabbanon. When it comes to workers, they make so little that Chazal were not concerned about him having his tiny little payment when he does this thing of like just pay with any coin. That's considered to be fine. But Chamarin, the nafish agre, that was the business to be in. They used to make a lot of money. The donkey drivers. Then kansu rabbanon, kansu rabbanon behu.
That's weird.
Oh, there's a lot of weird things. But which weird thing were you talking about?
It's tell me a little austere. So right?
Yeah.
I mean, do we see such a distinction?
No, just to be clear, the case that we're being lenient in is when
a little murder.
Wow, this year is off the rails sometimes. We're going to kill someone and just say it was a heter from the Gemara. It was a little murder. Okay. No, so I just want to be clear that the case that we're talking about that's mutter is where a man says to his worker, go buy this. And the coin that he had among them was a coin of shvius, but he didn't have to specifically use that shvius coin. He may or may not have used that shvius coin. There, lo kansuhu rabbanon in that case. It's not stam, just like shvius. We're talking about that was what the Bryce said. If I gave you a coin for shvius, and I said, Daniel, go with this coin. Go the coin is shvius. I put the kedusha there. Go buy something. That's aser. But if there's a satchel of money, some of which is shvius, I'm like, go buy. Not this coin, just go buy. So then lo kansuhu rabbanon, because it's not definitely.
It's not very right. It's not like...
Very good. That's a discussion, I'm sure, for the Rishonim, whether we say Islay Breira. Yeah, I don't know. All right, well, on that cliffhanger, but that's what the Gemara says, is that we do have this middle of the road where we're not so terribly concerned about it. So all of that was the Brisa. What about our Mishnah? Umas Nisan, Chumra Diyayin Nesech Shani. Our Mishnah, even though the worker there might have made very small beans. So why don't we extend the kula that we just saw by Shvius back over to our Mishnah? So the Gemara in 4 words just shuts it all down. Because it's Avodah Zara-esque. That's not right. So we're more machmir by Yain Nesech than we are by Shvius, which makes sense. Reasonable. Okay, that really closes out sugya number 1 for today, which is that why is it that when a person takes a job at the Yain Nesech company, why is it that his schar is aser? And the short answer is it's a knas. Why don't we say the same knas by Shvius? Shvius is different. Shvius is a lesser iser, still aser, but it's a lesser iser. And there's room for kula under certain circumstances. No such kula is applied by Yain Nesech. What about scharo l'stam yenon mahu? Okay, we spoke about something that's yain neseh. What about something that's stam yenon? It's their wine, but it wasn't nevad. So that we're concerned about stam yenon. That's what we say when a guy opens a bottle of yain she'enim uvoshel stam yenon. He answered it. So how do we compare working for the yain nesech company versus working for the stam yenon company? Yain nesech is aser, stam yenim is aser. So says the Gemara as follows: Mahu, what's the din? Mi amrinan kevan de isure chamor k'de yain nesech. The iser is halachically similar, right? You're not allowed to drink it. So it's similar to yain nesech. Therefore, schar nami asr, just like our Mishnah. O dilma hol the tumaso kil. Since the tuma is different, because since yain nesech has a tuma like tumas meis, and stam yenim has a lesser tuma status, so af schar nami kil. Beautiful chakira. So that's what the Gemara wants to know: is do we treat stam yenam, which functionally is just as asr, even though the lumdus is different, the halachos are different, but not the outcome, but the underbelly is different. The yain nesech is mamish like avodah Zara, right? Stam yenam is just we're concerned. The outcome of both is that you can't drink the drinks, so therefore maybe scharo asr even by stam yenam, or no? Do we not say that? Do we say that? Do we look at the tuma aspect of what's going on? And since by yain nesech the tuma aspect is very severe, and by stam yenim it's less so. So therefore, maybe we should be lenient and not say scharo asr. Says the Gemara, a quarter of the way down, Tashma. Dahu Gabra, there was a man. Da'agar arbe l'stam yenim. He rented out a boat to transport stam yenim. Yavule chite be'agre. He got paid with wheat. Okay, this is our question, right? Can you benefit from the schar of stam yenim? Says the Gemara, Asa l'kamed Chiza, Amarle zil klinhu v'kavrinhu. You got to burn it and you got to bury it. Okay, this is very, very strict. We're not. This is. It's almost an unexpected strict. You're like a little overkill. Like, why are we doing this? The Gemara calls him out on it. But lemalei badrinu, just tell him to scatter out the wheat. Why do you have to burn it? It's wheat. What's aser bana? Why do you have to burn it? Says the Gemara, asu behu lidei takala. People could make a mistake. People could possibly make a mistake. What mistake could they make? Rashi says, asu behu inshi lidei takala dehadri malakdelu, because other people will pick it up and take it. Asks the Gemara, v'liklinhu v'livdarinhu. Fine, so burn it and then just spread it around. Why bury it? Why do we have to burn it and bury it? Because dilma mazav lebehu. Maybe with the ashes, people will use it in a way that would help to fertilize. V'likbarinhu be'einaihu. Why don't we just bury it without burning it? Why did Rav Yochanan have to go all the way to the great extent of doing both? Is it Rav Yochanan? No, Rav Chizda. Why did Rav Chizda do that? Milot Tanya. Don't we have a brisa? Echad even sheniskal ba. When we talk about the capital punishment that is meted out to someone who deserved it in Bezdin. So the stone that he was killed with, ve'echad eitz shenit le'alav, or the tree that he was hanged on, ve'echad saif sheneh ragbo, or the sword that killed him, ve'echad sudar shenech nakbo, or if it was the handkerchief that was wrapped around his neck, kulam nikbar animo. We don't see that it's burnt over there, so just bury it. Why did Rav Chizda have to say that it had to be burnt and buried? Just say that it should be buried. So it says the Gemara, hasam de kokavre bebeidina, mukcha milsa de haruge bezdininu. There, when it comes to capital punishment, you're being buried in a very specific place. There's a rabbinic cemetery right there, and everybody knows why you're there, and all your stuff is going to be buried there. We don't need to first burn it and then bury it. No problem. But hacha, in this case, when we're talking about the schar of stam yeno, there, lo mukcha milsa, no one will really understand why it is that you're doing what you're doing. There's not a specific location where you dump the wages that you earned from stam yeno. And therefore, Eimar Inshi Ganav V'Aisi Kivrahacha. No, maybe this guy is a thief and he's just planting stuff. But who's to say that there's anything usher about it? And therefore, we had to do both. So the Gemara concludes, a little bit shockingly, I don't know, I was a little surprised by this, that Stam Yenam is just as chamor as Yain Nesech. No? Anybody?
At least be enough, suffix stam yenim, no?
No, that's the exception.
Suffix derabbanan.
Except for stam yenim.
It feels like a getter thing. No? You're saying
It's not what it says.
Normally, you'd be right. It's only to Rabban, therefore all the statements it's all been lahachmer because it's potentially outside Avodah Zara. It gets a different din. But exactly what you're saying is right. It's exactly stam yenim is only. I don't mean to say only.
Right.
Fact is, it's example. You should.
Yeah. If you look at the Rashi in the third line, Rashi Dibra Maskil on the third line, Rashi says the Isure Chamor. Rashi says now on the fourth line of Rashi is the Aser Be'anok Yain Nesech Mamash. So it's not just Aser to drink, It's asur b'hana as well.
Amazing. It's
And,
really amazing.
yeah, it's a very, very sharp line. And I kind of would have said on my own that this sounds like we just need to be stark here, but it just doesn't seem that way. It seems like it's just the din. Just the way the Gemara presents it is like, no, it's just a din.
This is a
Just
very-
yeah.
Would that also then mean that all of the concentric circles around Stam Yainam would apply as well, just like with Yain Nesach?
But even in our Mishnah by Yain Nesach Mamish, we said that if your employment was not to be the Yain Nesach guy,
Right.
but you happen to work for the company, and this Tuesday they asked you to move the barrel, you can still use your schar. So the concentric rings stop at some point, which is that it's only really usher to be employed there. I should say it's only really usher to use your schar if your job was Yain Nesach oriented. So if I work for the Yain Nesach company as the floor cleaner, and then one day they asked me to move a barrel, my schar is mutter.
So the same exact thing would apply with Stam Yainam.
Correct.
There's no
That was the Gemara's question and answer. That's Rav Chizda's chiddush. That's what the Gemara says. L'klinhu, kalinhu v'kavrinhu. Very sharp.
We don't have this do we have this anywhere else where
I don't know to such perfection. I don't know that.
it's a very big jump. I don't know.
Because it's close to all.
Yeah.
Special classification.
But we spent the last 60 blot talking about things that were close to Avodah Zara itself. We're not gonna say you can't go near a mountain.
That's true. That's true.
Or you can't go near stones or rivers or rocks or the Nile.
I think we don't.
The Nile's in Avodah Zara.
Honestly,
People lived in Egypt for thousands
I
of
think
years.
we don't get why. I don't get why.
Get wine?
I don't get it.
I don't know.
What do you-
Don't get why. I will make Kiddush and Havdalah on it because I have to. That's it.
Oh, you're saying you're not a connoisseur. It's
Do it, I drink.
Petel. You guys remember Petel from Yeshiva? That did not even have shahakal status. I don't know what that was. In Shalvim, in KBY when you were there? Yeah. Same batch from the 18th.
Change the faucets in.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Change the Betel, yeah. Remember that? Yeah. Awful.
No. Where was that, Shalvim?
But that was like Gare and Stolen and like all
That's
that.
disgusting.
Not the Petal on the taps. They would change like for the sinks or like the washing station outside the bathroom.
Yeah, what, you would turn the faucet?
And it would be Petal for the Simchas Beis Shvevas by like in like Be'asham.
I don't remember that.
That's really gross.
The days.
Anyways, no, I don't know of another comparison where there wouldn't be a nafkamina
Right.
between, let's say, the Doraisa status and the Darabanan status. That's very rare. But we do see from our Gemara, even a couple lines ago, like on the 8th line of the page, we were more machmir by Yain Nesach. But that line was that in comparison to Shvius.
Yeah, but their life.
We don't know.
Yeah.
But again, using the Nile as an example. The Nile was the lifeblood of Egypt. The entire place does not exist without that one.
Haharim below Haharim, Eloha.
Right.
And you can't.
Water can't become Avodah Zarah unless it's separated.
Right.
Either way, it's just this requires work like so many other things.
Generous disconnect for us,
Mhm.
but wine in particular was such a part of their lives.
Yeah.
I could do without. For the most part.
Literally was.
Look at Tosfos Dibra Maschel Scharo L'Stam Yenu Mahu, which was the fundamental question. Lichatchila Vaday Aser Lihistaker B'Stam Yenu. Lichatchila, of course, one should not benefit from those dollars. You're not allowed to work together in the pit, in the vat with the goy. Whatever period, unless his hands were tied. This really articulates even more what we were saying, is that he's saying it's not mutter even b'di'evet, burn the wheat and bury it in the backyard where just very sharp. Okay, last sugya for the day, and then we'll stop at the bottom of the page. Debei Rav Yanai yazvi perei shvius me'anim. He would borrow fruits that were shvius from poor people. Upira'o lehu b'shminis. He would do an act of seeming chesed because they couldn't use the fruits in shvius, and he would pay them with fruits in the shminis in the 8th year. And in the end, what he was doing is taking fruits they couldn't benefit from, and then in the 8th year, giving them fruits they could benefit from. Also, Amru le the Rabbi Yochanan. They told Rabbi Yochanan, Amar lahu yos hein avodah. They're doing something beautiful. Uchenegdan be'esnan mutter. When we have a similar case by an esnan, that's also mutter. We know, of course, that an esnan zona is a restriction in the Torah to use something that was given as a gift for a woman's services as a zona. Those items cannot be brought on the mizbeach. So let's say, you're talking about, some of the stories in Chumash where a man is with a woman as a zona and he pays her with an animal, whether goat, sheep, whatever the case may be. That animal cannot be brought in the Beis Hamikdash. That's a din of Esnan Zona. But there is an exception to this rule, and we're going to apply the exception to Esnan Zona and bring it back to this case where Rav Yanai was doing a chesed. Titania, 8 lines from the bottom of the page, 9 lines. Nasan la velo ba'aleha. If a man gives a gift to the Zona, but he doesn't sleep with her, or ba'aleha velo nasan la, or they were intimate, but he didn't pay her, esnana mutter. This is extremely cryptic. Let's just read it one more time because neither line makes sense. If he gives her a gift but he doesn't sleep with her, or if he sleeps with her but doesn't give her a gift, then the esnan is mutter. So says the Gemara. Wait a second. Nasan la v'lo ba'ala pshita kevan de lo ba'ala matana ba'almahu du yavla. That seems easy enough, right? That seems easy enough. Visu. Ba'alevlo nasan la. He didn't give her anything. Hello yahiv la v'lo midi. V'chemedolo nasan la. My esnana mutter. What? In both of these versions, there was no, okay, on the one hand, you gave a gift, on the other hand, you slept with someone you shouldn't have, but there's no esnan in either case. So it says the Gemara, Elohachi kamar, you've misunderstood. Well, misunderstood. The words were not there. It says the Gemara, Elohachi kamar, nasan la va'achar kach ba'aleha. If he gave her this item, and then at a later point, in some gap of time, then they were together. That's what Rashi says. So there was a gap of time, even though prepayment, or the opposite. At a later time, then esnan mutter. So the din that we're talking about by esnan zona is that the only time that this item that's given as a gift to a zona for her services is usher for the Beis Hamikdash is when it's quid pro quo right away. Right. Again, we don't know what right away means, but let's say I'm going to make up a time frame. Okay, within a day, whatever. I don't know if I'm right, but let's say within a day. So let's say they're together at 2 p.m. and then 8 p.m. he pays with this, or vice versa. He pays at 2 p.m. They're together. Okay, that's going to be esnan zona, can't be used. But if there's enough of a gap in time by esnan zona, then the din of esnan zona dissolves, and we now view the maisa of being with the zona and the gift that he gives to the zona, the payment, now they're separate items. And we're carrying that back to the story that we saw with Rav Yanai. What did he do? He borrowed fruits, peros shvius, from a poor person in a year when they couldn't consume them. And then he gave them back in the 8th year. So because of the gap in time, just like by the esnan zona, that the status of esnan zona dissolves when the gap between the tashmish and the gift is far apart. It's no longer esnan. She could bring it as a korban, no problem. So too over here. The isser of utilizing shvius in this way would have otherwise been usser. If you give me your peros shvius and I'll give you money, absolutely not. But when there's a gap in time, then we then view them as individual freestanding occurrences. And therefore, that's why Rav Yana is allowed to do it. Got to know the lines in the sand.
Except when you're making that.
Except for Yainus.
Right.
Except for Damina. Except for Damina. Everything else tonight is going to loop.
The placement of it is very interesting.
Of the sugya?
There's like 8 loopholes and the biggest chomer in the city.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So this is a big one. And I wonder if we could do things like this. Can we do it now, Lamaisa? Can we go to a poor person and borrow their fruits on Shemitah on the 7th year and then pay them back handsomely in equal amount a year later? It's mutter. It's pashat mutter. So we've been talking about Karen Shvi. We should support them. I do. I'm not taking away their business model. But perhaps it's mutter to do something like this. If someone has the capacity to hold on to the money, then great, pay them back when the time comes.
Has to be very careful. Well, separate, like rivets and how much.
Oh, yeah.
The in Mishpat doesn't say we pass like this, right? I don't see any. I see
No.
a dalit up here. This is not how we pass in halacha.
No, possibly not. But the
Except for Yochanan said it's a good idea, usually we pass with Yochanan.
Yeah. Yosein Abdin, no. That what they did with the Perish Shvis is the case. That is the deal. Yeah, that is what they're doing.
We do.
Yeah, I imagine so.
The dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be the leniency. All right, we're gonna stop here, even though as you can see, the next line is still the same thing, but we'll stop here. Mirza Hashem will pick up tomorrow night with Daf Samach Gimel.
I didn't. Actually, in the last character, he's got like a sequel. I didn't notice it down there.
Oh.
He died?
See that?
No.
Maskan the mill.
Oh, Maskan.
We learned a whole paragraph about
Yeah.
Stam Yenam and back and forth all over the place.
All right, wishing you all a beautiful night.